of station staff, management, and advertisers.
What's going on, everybody? Happy Hump Day. Hope everyone's having a great Wednesday out there. Thank you so much for joining us. Part of the Occupy Democrats Network, the Washington Press Network, of course, the FM AM dial right here in Las Vegas, Nevada, KSHP, and personal YouTube page at PTL Radio Show. We are in the YouTube Super Chat where your questions and comments will be heard. And, of course, pushingthelimits.live where we got the merchandise up there and donations, and we appreciate everybody being a part of PTL Nation, which is literally growing by the day. I keep saying that every day because it is growing by the day. We just passed 122,000 subscribers on YouTube last night, in partial thanks to Adam Mockler, by the way. I was on the Pierce Morgan show with him the other day, and Adam gave me a nice shout out and part of his YouTube video. The guy's got like 1.5 million subscribers on YouTube. So that was really nice of him. Adam's a friend of the show, and he'll be joining us on the show next week. David Packman's going to be joining us on the show next week. There is a small chance, ladies and gentlemen, I don't want to get your hopes up, but we could have Donald Trump, the president of the United States, joining us on the show tomorrow. We do have Joe Walsh, former presidential candidate, that is confirmed on the show tomorrow. But there is a lot to get to today. There's a lot to talk about. Governor Abbott, as I like to call him, Governor Abhole, comparing a football game, that's right, a football game, to what has taken place in Texas. I mean, it's so absurd and ridiculous. Britt is now saying we all have Trump derangement syndrome because we want to hold people to account for what took place in Texas. Donald Trump, it seems like it's taken him this long maybe to finally figure out that Vladimir Putin is not a good guy. I'm not making this up. It really is incredible. And Pete Hegseth not telling anybody in the White House that he put a Ukraine weapons pause down and left everybody in the dark, including Donald Trump. So a lot to get to, a lot to talk about. We haven't even mentioned the Epstein files yet today, and we will talk about that as well. So the guy joining us on the show right now, a personal friend of mine, a great guy, and I've been following him on social media for a long time. He does a great podcast called Hold the Mic, which I have been on, and it's a pleasure to have Ryan Shedd back on the show with us. Ryan, it is good to see you, my friend. How are you?
Yeah, good, brother. As good as we can be at this time, at least, right?
You're right. You're right about that, man. There's a lot to talk about.
Congratulations on the YouTube 100, man. That's insane.
Thank you.
It's nice to see you grow and seeing you on the Pierce Morgan. So, it's just it speaks to the dedication you put into doing this every day. So.
Well, thanks, Ryan. I appreciate you saying that. And I know you put that same dedication in, and that's why you have such a huge following on social media. So I appreciate you saying that. Ryan, there's so much to get to here. Where do I even start? Let's start with Jeffrey Epstein.
Yeah.
What do you make of the fact that the Pam Bondis of the world and the Kash Patels of the world, Dan Bongino, and really all Trump supporters for the most part, have been talking about this Epstein alleged client list for years? And now all of a sudden, yesterday's reaction from Donald Trump is, don't ask me about it. I don't want to talk about it.
Yeah. I mean, if that doesn't make everybody's eyebrows kind of raise up and go, oh, really? I don't, again, it goes back to this dude can literally get away with anything. It is the craziest thing that most of us will ever see. The fact that people are so willing now, just because Donald Trump said so, to disregard it. When Pam Bondi just a few months ago was, going all around the news channels saying, oh, yeah, it's on my desk. I'm reviewing it. Oh, by the way, we've got a video of her undercover, of course. She didn't know she was being recorded, talking about the hundreds of videos that they have of kids that the FBI is going through. That was just months ago. It was in April. So, I mean, to sit there and now magically say, oh, let's just all forget about it. No, sir. You literally campaigned on this. You called Democrats evil. You said we were covering for people like Joe Biden, this, that, and the other. Now that he's in power and you guys all said, oh, Donald Trump will release it. The guy that you thought that didn't release his tax returns, you think that guy was going to show us that list?
And it's interesting you say that, Ryan, because I've had Mark Epstein on the show, Jeffrey Epstein's brother. He's done this show multiple times. We'll have him on again. And when I said, hey, they claim they had this video that outside of your brother's cell that he took his own life, and his brother Mark was not buying it. And it turns out every single day Mark seems to be right, because now they show this video from a different camera angle than they say they had. There's 1 minute that has magically disappeared, and they have no explanation where this minute is. It just egg on their face, and it's not the video that they promised they would show all of us.
Oh, completely. And let me ask you this question. What would the response have been if the Biden administration had released the exact same information, exactly as it's been presented to the American people? What would the right's reaction have been with that 1 minute missing from that video?
Oh, we would hear about it every day for the next 5 years. And I asked that question to Jack Sobiak. I asked him on Pierce the other day. I said, what would we be saying right now, or what would you be saying if Joe Biden and let's just say Jeffrey Epstein was caught on tape saying that Joe Biden was his best friend, and Joe Biden was on the flight log 7 times, and then the Biden administration refused to release the transcripts or the list or whatever you want to call it.
Close ranks around him as well. Yeah.
Right. They'd be leading it on every single channel, on Fox News, on Newsmax, on OAN. This is all they would be talking about.
Yep. No, it's a fact. And it just goes, we talk so much. I think every time I've come on your show, we've talked about the hypocrisy, right? We always go back to the hypocrisy of the right. It's not, I'm not sitting there saying that the left doesn't have criminals and the left doesn't have bad people. Of course we do. But the point we're trying to make is that you're not holding your side to the same level of accountability that you hold us to. And that's where the problem I have begins.
Yeah, exactly. I agree with you, Ryan. Let's talk a little bit about the tragedy that has taken place in Texas. Obviously, dozens of children and families taken. It's a horrible story, right?
Yeah.
But I do find it interesting that Donald Trump guts the NOAA. We know at least 800 people have lost their jobs. Former NOAA workers said this certainly played a role. We know that these families did not get the warnings that they needed to get. It's a terrible tragedy. But all of a sudden, when there's something like this that happens in Texas, Ted Cruz, Abbott, and MAGA say don't politicize it, yet they want to blame Gavin Newsom for the fires in California. They wanted to blame Joe Biden for the fires in Hawaii. But now all of a sudden, under a Republican watch, and clearly the NOAA budget cuts from DOJ played a role here, we can't talk about that because you're politicizing it.
Well, again, it's just hypocrisy, right? They keep going back to everything's the Democrats' fault because their side keeps believing it. When the reality is, if this had all played out exactly the same, they would be screaming from the hills that Joe Biden is the worst. But when it's Donald Trump, it's acceptable. The realities are we can't have these kind of events and not talk about the politics of it. And when I say that, I don't mean the BS politics. I'm talking about the politics of the people in that city, the city council, the people responsible. They knew that that was one of the most dangerous valleys in not just in the state, but in the country. And they knew that they needed to have some type of early warning system, and they were repeatedly turned down because the people didn't want to pay for it. So I don't understand how we can't talk about the politics of this.
Yeah.
If you're not gonna figure out the root cause, then you know what you're doing? You're just opening up the door for it to happen again.
Agree. And the latest numbers are just staggering. And they knew these numbers were going to be this high, but and they're continuing to rise. I wish it wasn't.
They wouldn't, but geez.
Yeah, me as well, Ryan. It's terrible. Over 119 people now have lost their lives. 27 of those children. It's just absolutely tragic, and it's horrible.
And can I just say before you move on, guys, we need to. At some point, we need to drop the politics and have some compassion.
Yes.
The one thing I know for sure is that no parent is built in their brain to bury their child.
Yes, I agree.
Just aren't. And you've got all these families now that are losing their children. And you can't ignore the fact that the reason they're gone is due to a government, city, state, whatever you want to call it, but a government's inability to protect them.
Do you notice, Ryan, and you're right. And obviously that was the first thing that I thought of. And I was thinking about the families and these innocent children. And it breaks my heart. Obviously, if you're a person of compassion, which obviously you are, that's the first thing you think about. But I do find it interesting that every single time there is a horrific tragedy, it could be a mass shooting, or in this case, the floods, and Governor Abbott always says, now's not the time to talk about this. Now's not the time to talk about gun control. Now's not the time to talk about what we could have done differently. And then I'm going to play this audio a little bit later in the show, Ryan, but he starts talking about football, and he starts comparing, and I'm sure you heard the audio. He starts talking about a football game and a high school football team losing a football game compared to, floods where children lose their lives. And I'm thinking to myself, what a moron. Yeah. What a terrible analogy.
He was just babbling. But that's what MAGA does. They just babble and distract and change the talking point, whatever it is they got to do, but I have zero love for Governor Hot Wheels. And honestly, I wish the tree had done the job. He's showing us every day that they lack all compassion, that they have zero ability to drop the politics. Because if you want to not make it about politics, stop blaming Democrats.
Exactly. They've done it with Gavin Newsom. They've done it with Joe Biden. And you remember the train derailment. They blame that on Pete Buttigieg. I mean, it's a joke. And the hypocrisy is sick.
And just to drive your point home is we had, a sniper a few weeks ago?
Yeah.
And they instantly, the people on the normals, Jack Posobiec, the normal right-wing accounts, instantly went into, it was a left-wing person. And a lot of us were like, whoa, like, we don't know. Like, dude's still shooting. Like, we don't know anything about this guy yet.
They always do that.
Exactly. And then you wait a day or two and information starts coming out about the parents. There's pictures of them in front of the White House wearing their MAGA hats. And it's like, now it makes more sense. Oh, it was a disgruntled person that couldn't cut it. Couldn't hack it as a fireman and was upset that they told him no and decided to go shoot people.
Well, Ryan, you're right.
Stability of MAGA.
Ryan, the examples are endless. Ted Cruz is the guy at the forefront here telling us not to make this political. When Paul Pelosi was bludgeoned with a hammer and almost lost his life, it was Ted Cruz who put out a tweet with a conspiracy theory that was some sort of gay relationship and that he let him in. And then when the police report came out, he never retracted. He never apologized. So if there's anybody that doesn't have compassion, who always makes it about politics, it's the Ted Cruzes of the world. So that's the last guy that I want to hear preach to us. There has to be accountability here. We know that gutting the NOAA certainly had to have played some sort of role in this. And it's sickening and it's disgusting. I wanted to ask you, and if you're just joining us, by the way, Ryan Shedd, host of Hold the Mic. Ryan, you're a former service member. You served this country. So I know you probably take this pretty personally. Pete Hegseth, who is the Secretary of Defense, apparently had a weapons pause when it came to aiding Ukraine. Didn't tell anybody. Didn't tell Donald Trump. Didn't tell anybody in the White House. Left everybody in the dark. And now all of a sudden, it seems like Donald Trump maybe is finally starting to realize that Vladimir Putin is full of crap and he's a bad guy. But that's beside the point. What do you make of Pete Hegseth again doing something really stupid and putting our national security at risk and the people in Ukraine? What do you make of this story?
I wish I could say I'm surprised, but I'm not. I think the biggest thing we should all focus on is Donald Trump really in control of the Pentagon right now? Clearly not. He's saying something completely different than the actions of the Pentagon. So which one of them is wrong here? Is it Pete Hegseth or is it Trump? So that's my first question. The thing that is interesting to me, and I want everybody to remember, please go back and watch the video of President Zelensky in the Oval Office being berated by Donald Trump and J.D. Vance, and I think even Hegseth was in there. And they were talking about he needs to be diplomatic. He needs to get Russia to the table. He needs to negotiate with Putin. And the man sat there and kept telling him, we've tried that many times. He never abides by the ceasefire. He never abides by anything he signs. And now Donald Trump himself is coming out and saying, big surprise, exactly what Zelensky, who's been on the ground for the last 3 or 4 years, has been trying to tell him. You can't negotiate with these people. So stop trying. But you have so many people that are also being, and this is my opinion, let me start with that I think are being some way compensated by Russia, that they're not going to follow Trump if he starts going off the playbook. That's my big concern.
I agree.
You know what I mean?
Agree. Yeah,
not to be a conspiracy theorist, but it's
I don't disagree with you one bit. I'm wondering why it took Donald Trump this long. Is it because he's just stupid? Is it because Putin has something on him? I don't know why it took Donald Trump this long to finally realize that anything that Putin says is a
I think
lie.
NATO was getting. I think something happened behind closed doors with NATO and with the G7.
Very possible.
I have a feeling that they put some pressure on him behind closed doors and was basically like, "Look, we'll boot your ass out.
Yeah.
Like, don't think we won't."
Very possible. Remember, again, Trump campaigned on, I can end the war within 24 hours. He called Vladimir Putin brilliant. He's complimented him on many of occasions, never called him a dictator. He called Zelensky a dictator. He blamed Ukraine for the start of this war.
Long list, isn't it, brother?
It really is. I mean, the promises are endless. He said he'd be a peace president and he wouldn't get us into any new wars. We know that didn't happen with Iran.
Yep.
And now Benjamin Netanyahu is kissing Trump's ass and saying he deserves the Nobel Peace Prize. I mean, it's so obvious. If you're nice to Donald Trump, he'll do whatever you want him to do.
Now, correct me if I'm wrong. I know you have producers. I believe this is the third person to nominate Donald Trump for a Nobel Peace Prize in the last 4 months.
Yeah.
This dude wants a Nobel Peace Prize so badly because he has to have everything and more that the black president had. I'm telling you, that's all it is. That is all it is. This dude just wants one to have it. Now, he's not doing the actions because he thinks that's what's best or because he's a good person. No, his literally deciding metric is, could this win me a Nobel Peace Prize?
And Ryan,
let's do it. Like, that's it.
You're right. And Ryan, speaking of this, on Fox News yesterday, I played the audio. Gymnasium Jordan was being interviewed, and the Fox anchor was joking with Jim Jordan about taking the Nobel Peace Prize away from Barack Obama and giving it to Donald Trump. And then they were joking about how, hey, this could be the first convicted felon to ever win the Nobel Peace Prize. And they were laughing about it. Like, they think this is actually funny. By the way, my producer says you were right. It is 3.
Thank you.
Yep.
And that just goes to our point is the Republican Party and MAGA. I hesitate to really separate them at this point, but they are so willing to just destroy the image of anything. It's like, if they could get this dude an Oscar, they would, just to say he's got it. And it's like, if they give this guy Nobel Peace Prize, like, it just totally negates it. And look, I know that we can have the debate about Obama and drone strikes and all that kind of stuff. We can have that debate all day, and it's a very valid debate. That said, go read what he got the Nobel Peace Prize for, and then come back and talk to us. The reality is there's nothing Donald Trump has done in his life or will do in his life that is going to negate the fact that he is a felon and an accused abuser. And I would bet really good money that the Nobel Committee is not going to give a felon and somebody like that a Nobel Peace Prize and taint everybody else that has received one.
I certainly hope not, Ryan. We haven't really even got into tariffs. I want to ask you a little bit about this, but we were told 90 deals in 90 days by members of the Trump administration, including Navarro and even Donald Trump.
Yes, sir.
Trump has also said, I'll make at least 200 deals. And now there were 2 deals that have been made to this point, and those weren't even good deals. And now we're being told, well, if I sent a letter out, Trump said this yesterday, if I send a letter out to a leader in another country, that's a deal. I mean, are we living in the twilight zone here? Apparently that's a deal now.
Oh, I mean, we absolutely are. And again, he's moving the tariffs to August because they're not working. The countries aren't biting on, let me bully them with tariffs and they're going to fold. He's finding out that, no, they're not going to. Most of them are going to hold it. And not only that, but they've been preparing for this for some time now, at least for the last 3 months, because they've seen how unstable everything is and they saw what he was doing with the tariffs. So they instantly went into, well, we got to protect ours. So they've been looking for other trade deals, other avenues, like everything. So this is hurting America in the long run, allowing this guy to continue with this nonsense. Like, okay, you sent out letters. Let me ask all you Americans out there. Would you expect the president of the United States to just respond to some letter from another president telling us what to do and stating what the terms would be?
Yeah, it's a very good point that you make. Yeah, of course not. It's insane. And again, we were told that Doge was going to save us $2 trillion. Then it went down to 1 trillion. Then it went to 140 billion, and that can't even be proven. And
Well,
now,
now Elon Musk is saying, what was the point of it all if you're going to pass this ridiculous bill?
I tend to agree with Elon Musk on this one. I mean,
Hey,
I'm on his
you
side
could
on
be
this
right
one.
twice a day. You know what I'm
Yeah,
saying?
I mean, I think he's a despicable human being, but sometimes he gets it right, and he's certainly
Yeah.
right on this one. There's no question about that.
Can I ask you a question though?
Sure.
Do you think that part of it is ego based? That he's not doing what he's doing because it's right. He's doing because it's in opposition of Trump.
I think that's a good point that you make. I think Elon Musk is like Donald Trump in a lot of different ways. I think a lot of what they do is ego based, and they have the maturity level of an 8-year-old. I do think a part of it too is that Elon is genuinely probably upset that he put into $400 million plus into Donald Trump's campaign to help get him elected, and then when push came to shove, Donald Trump did not listen to Elon Musk. So I think that's also a part of it. So I think a part of it is certainly ego. I think another part of it is Elon Musk is upset that he didn't get what he wanted. So this is him lashing out at Trump. I don't know how long this is going to last. I don't know if Elon Musk is serious about this third party. We'll find out in 6 months from now if we're still talking about it.
Yeah.
But I do feel like part of it's ego, but I don't think it's all of it. I think part of it is Elon Musk
That's
is
fair.
genuinely pissed off.
As it should be.
Yeah,
He got
yeah.
used.
Yeah, exactly. So I think it's a little bit of everything. And listen, I said, I don't know how long Pam Bondi's going to be there. I guess that was my next question for you, Hegseth and Pam Bondi. I find it interesting that the Laura Loomers of the world, they are not willing to put any responsibility on Donald Trump. Donald Trump is the guy who hired Pam Bondi. Donald Trump is the guy who hired Pete Hegseth. And now all of a sudden they want to say Bondi should be fired. Well, what about the person that hired her? Why don't they put any responsibility on Trump?
Exactly. And she's again, she was literally on the news 2 months ago saying that she is following through on the agenda that Donald Trump, the president of the United States, had given her. That's almost word for word what she said.
Yeah.
So it's again, it's like you think Americans are stupid. And I can say what I want to say about people that it took you this long to figure it out, but the reality is a lot of people are starting to see people getting picked up off the streets by masked individuals that aren't identifying themselves or showing any type of court paperwork, and they're going, okay, like these are lines being crossed that are just too far. And so, as much as I want to facilitate that, we also have to pay attention to, is Pete Hegseth going to take the fall? I think so pretty soon. Where's Tulsi Gabbard, by the way, after Trump said a few weeks ago that he didn't care what she said or whatever, that it goes his way? It's like, so she's kind of vanished into thin air. And so is Pam Bondi next? She's been pretty loyal to this point. And you still saw the loyalty even, when he was telling everybody, forget about the Epstein thing. She's like, well, I'll gladly answer and, divert attention. Basically, she tried to tell him to stop. If you really watch, she was kind of like I'll answer.
Yeah, it was a word salad. But it's interesting you bring up Tulsi Gabbard because she has not been invited to any of these Q&As with the media, and that is not by coincidence. Tulsi Gabbard is
cut out.
Right. She is the person under oath a few months ago, and I do believe she was telling the truth when she said that they had no reason to believe, based on her own intelligence, that Iran was furthering their nuclear capability. She said that under oath 2 months ago, and now Donald Trump
change.
Right. Of course not. We've been hearing the same thing from the Israeli government for 30 years. I don't defend Iran. I mean, they harbor terrorists and they're a terrorist regime. But at the same time, that doesn't mean we can go in there and just start bombing them. So that's why Tulsi Gabbard hasn't been invited, because a member of the media would ask her, were you lying 2 months ago?
You also bring up a really good point that I just want to put an exclamation point on, and that is the bombing. It's one thing to respond to an attack. But in this instance, the one thing I need everybody to understand is we weren't responding to a direct attack from Iran. Like, we literally were preemptively striking them and then saying, well, we did it because we had this intel. We didn't learn our lesson back in 2002, 2003?
Yeah, that's a good point. And, you go back to the weapons of mass destruction lie and Israeli intelligence, which obviously...
It's the same playbook, bro.
We're
watching the same playbook. And
it's
like, and again, you want to know what it boils down to, Ryan? we never should have negotiated with domestic terrorists after January 6th.
You're right. You're right. And you know what? Barack Obama never dropped bombs in Iran. He used his words. And
He
Donald
did a lot
Trump,
more diplomatic deals than this dude is doing.
absolutely. No question about it. Ryan, before I let you go, brother, I always
Yes,
love
sir.
having you on. Give out that information about your podcast, Hold the Mic, which I've been on. It's an absolutely phenomenal podcast, and how people can follow you on socials. And I know your YouTube channel is growing by the day. Give out that
Yeah.
information.
Well, and it helps that you bring me on. I always gain some followers. So thank you, everybody out there that watches the show and then comes on over to my YouTube. You can find it under my name, Ryan Shed, SHEAD. But this is a perfect day. We're actually going to be doing Hold the Mic tonight at 8 o'clock Eastern. So jump on over on YouTube, hit that subscribe button, and come watch us tonight. We're going to be doing a quick rundown of everything that's going on. So I think if you watch this show, you're probably going to enjoy that. But before I go, man, again, congratulations. It is so nice as your friend to see you out here on Pierce Morgan and, you know, getting your due because all the hard work you do. So just keep plugging, and I look forward to coming back.
Thanks, Ryan. Always appreciate it. You're a good friend, and you're great at what you do as well. Please follow Ryan, and good to see you, my friend. Have a good rest of your week, okay?
You too, brother.
All right. Ryan's a good dude, man. Always appreciate it when he comes on. He's a good dad, good father, just a good man. And, you know, we have private conversations off the air. We talk about some other things other than politics, and he's a really good guy and really talented and really good at what he does. So happy to call Ryan a friend, and I highly recommend you follow his stuff on social media, which, by the way, I followed on social media way before I even knew Ryan personally. So it's cool to have him on the show and have that relationship with him. All right, so here's what we are going to do. We are going to take a quick 90-second break. When we come back, it is Wednesday, so your favorite co-host, Leonard Cardinale, is going to be joining us. You're not going to believe what Governor Greg Abbott said yesterday in a press conference when being asked about these Texas floods and who should hold accountability. You're not going to believe what he said. It might be the worst analogy that any politician has ever made. We have the audio, and we're going to play it for you next. You're not going to want to miss this. We'll take a quick break. We'll be back in 90 seconds. You're listening to Pushing the Limits right here on KSHP.
Hey, everybody. Are you struggling to find a pizza place that reminds you of Brooklyn? That true blue New York style pie? Well, worry no more. Stallone's Italian Eatery Pizza is a knockout. We're located at 467 East Silverado Ranch Boulevard, just off of Premier Road, half a mile east of South Point Casino, just minutes from the Las Vegas Strip. Come by and grab a slice of pie. Plus, check out our Brooklyn-inspired Italian cuisine. Our sandwiches are super. Hero, that is. Because why be a sub when you can be a hero? Stallone's Italian Eatery is here to serve you phenomenal food, baby.
hockeyforkids.org. You are way too smart, way too talented, way too good to be where you are. You are meant to be making way more money, feel way hotter in your body, and having way more fun. Hi, I'm Nicole Mitchell, and I'm a life coach. I help you get hotter and richer. If that is what you're looking for, you can find me at NicoleMitchell.com. My name, Nicole, is with a K, NIKOLE, MITCHELL.com. You can reach out to me on my website or on Instagram, and I will be happy to be in touch and figure out what you're looking for and how I can support you in getting there.
All right, welcome back. It is Pushing the Limits on a Wednesday. Thank you so much for joining us. Quick programming note for you. Former presidential candidate, Republican turned Democrat. Yes, that's right. Joe Walsh will be joining us on the show tomorrow, and there is a possibility I could be getting Donald Trump on the show for a few minutes. We're working on it, ladies and gentlemen. Hopefully. So we'll keep you updated on that, but you certainly want to tune into the show tomorrow. Our thanks to Jackson's Bar and Grill, located at Flamingo and Jones, the official gaming bar of the PTL radio show, home of the $20 ribeye steak. They have not upped the price in 8 years, and it is delicious. It comes with a side and vegetables. I'm telling you, every time I go into Jackson's, it's a great meal. Doesn't matter what I have there. It's great food, great atmosphere, great gaming, great promotions. Please check them out. Jackson's Bar and Grill, located at Flamingo and Jones. We are also in the YouTube Super Chat, so for anybody who wants to get their questions or comments heard, please go into the YouTube Super Chat to do so. And, of course, my website, which is pushingthelimits.live. This is an independently owned radio show. We rely on good people like yourselves to make donations, $5, $10, $20 a month, whatever you could afford, and we appreciate you in advance for doing that. All right, let's introduce, of course, the one, the only, Leonard Cardinale. He is a former police officer and lieutenant here in North Las Vegas, and it's always great to see Leonard in studio here. Leonard, what's going on?
I'm just proud to be here. I'm happy. I think you did a great job on the Piers Morgan show the other day.
Thank you.
You kind of put Jack in his place. Can we say jackass on the radio?
Yeah,
or?
he's a jackass.
Yeah.
Jack is a jackass.
Well, was he pouting, or is it just because I don't like him? It looked like he was pouting when you were chewing him out.
Yeah, he had a powwow yesterday, and what these MAGA Republicans, listen, Jack Posobiec, if you don't know who he is, Jack is the guy who started the whole Pizzagate conspiracy theory, which turned out to be a lie, and it was debunked, and people's lives were in jeopardy because of Jack, and that's how he made a name for himself, which is really sad, by the way. And Jack is also the guy who had one of those Epstein binders in Washington, D.C., who looked like a complete moron, and now he's upset at Pam Bondi, but puts no responsibility on Donald Trump for anything. So I said once again yesterday on Pierce that Jack wears the Donald Trump knee pads 24/7, and he does the Donald Trump dance every night before he goes to sleep. And I don't think he liked that very much, but I really don't care.
He was upset, and I don't think he likes people who talk in facts. Piers Morgan seems to favor you on certain questions because he knows you're just going to say it like it is. Like you spoke about Israel, you spoke about your position.
Yep.
It's not anti-Semitism to say you don't.
I got
agree
Pierce on my side yesterday. The other day. He was agreeing with me on pretty much everything.
He's solid on.
He's coming around. I'm getting Pierce to come. I think maybe I'm rubbing off on him a little bit. I don't know. He's starting to come around, Piers Morgan, a little bit. I mean, we agreed on Israel. We agreed on the Epstein stuff. Haba did his show, and we agreed. Where's Haba getting all this information from? Who did your show? So, yeah, me and Pierce seem to be agreeing on a lot of things lately.
He looks like he's coming around on things that are objectively true,
well,
or objectively accurate.
He leans to the left on a lot of social issues, and we're going to get Pierce to do this show eventually.
Wow, that would be awesome.
But, yeah, eventually that's going to happen. All right, so as you know, Leonard, the tragedies that took place in Texas with these floods are just catastrophic. It's horrible. My heart goes out to these families. I mean, these poor children, they had their whole lives ahead of them. And it breaks my heart. I don't care what political affiliation they were from. I don't care what their religion is. I don't care. These are these are lives that are that have been lost, and these are children that are gone. And it's just it's horrible, and it's terrible to talk about. It brings me no joy. Of course, it's terrible. With that being said, here's what we know, and I'm not just throwing stuff at a wall and hope that it sticks. We know that Donald Trump and this administration and DOJ gutted the NOAA.
Correct.
We know that at least 800 people have lost their jobs.
Yes.
We also know that there are former employees that are saying this absolutely played a role. These families didn't get the warnings that maybe they would have had if these employees were still put in place, and they made cuts, and because of those cuts, I believe people lost their lives. And there's fair criticism to be put all around. So with that being said, as you know, MAGA Republicans are the first to blame Gavin Newsom for the fires in California. They were the first to blame Joe Biden for the fires in Hawaii. Why isn't Joe Biden out there? They're the first to blame any Democrat for anything, a hangnail. But now we're being told we're the losers. That's right. According to Governor Abbott, Greg Abbott, as I like to call him Governor Abhole, who I believe is a despicable human being, a reporter asked him yesterday, Leonard, about accountability. And I want you to listen to the despicable answer he gave. Keep in mind, this is knowing that over 100 people have lost their lives, sadly, a good portion of them children. And Governor Abbott starts talking about football. Have a listen to this.
You ask, and I'm going to use your words, who's to blame? Know this. That's the word choice of losers. Let me explain one thing about Texas. And that is, Texas, every square inch of our state cares about football. You could be in Huntsville, Texas, Houston, Texas, any size community that care about football. High school, Friday Night Lights, college football, or pro. And know this, every football team makes mistakes. The losing teams are the ones that try to point out who's to blame. The championship teams are the ones that say, don't worry about it, man, we got this. We're going to make sure that we go score again, that we're going to win this game.
Hey, dummy, this is not a football game. This is not a sports contest where a football team loses a game and says, hey, let's do better in the next one. This isn't a game, you imbecile. These are children that have lost their lives that will never come back. These are families that are broken forever. All the funerals that are going to be taking place in the next week or two. Young children, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12 years old. And you have the audacity to compare this to a football game.
Not a good time for politics.
A high school football team losing a football game?
Can I point out a couple of other things? So
Yeah.
the National Weather Service funding was pulled, and by their own admission, they're on a skeleton crew, so there was no early warning system. Also, the FEMA, I think $17 million was pulled from FEMA. Does that sound correct?
Mm-hmm.
And so FEMA doesn't have the resources. Trump said, well, we're going to leave it up to the governors. One governor should be able to ask the other governor for some help. And then on top of that, maybe people know this, maybe they don't. But in April, the legislature for the state of Texas had a chance to get to agree to $500 million for early warning system and for National Weather Service, and they all voted against it because they didn't want to spend the money.
And here's something.
So whose fault is it?
And you're right. And here's something that is even worse. And if you don't think that Governor Abbott is a bad guy, I would say this. The day of the Uvalde school massacre, Governor Abbott had a campaign event where he was raising money. He refused to cancel the event. And they hadn't even counted the bodies in that classroom, and Governor Abbott was counting the money that he was making in a fundraiser. That's the kind of person Governor Abbott is. He's a horrific human being. So should we be surprised that Governor Abbott is now calling us losers for wanting accountability, which I'm sure the families want accountability in their grief, and he's comparing it to a football game? And here's somebody else who's despicable, Katie Britt. So Katie Britt did an interview on Fox yesterday, and she's saying, if we want accountability, because we want to make sure this tragedy doesn't happen like this again, we must have Trump derangement syndrome. This is what Katie Britt said yesterday.
You know, and I think it shows that Trump derangement syndrome is real when you take such a tragedy and a terrible moment like this and you don't want to do anything but turn it into something for your own political gain. You know, my daughter is at camp right now. And I know that there are parents out there that are counting down the days until they pick up their child. And there are also parents that are clinging to the fact that they have another day with their child. And we've got to be human beings, Kellyanne. Not everything has to be political. There will be time for us to figure out how we can do better and do more and prevent these tragedies in the future. And what they don't realize is their toxicity is not normal. And it is not something that we should tolerate in the United States of America.
It's so unbecoming
We got to
for
come
public
together.
officials, definitely.
And now is the time.
We have to come together. Well, here's my question to Katie Britt, who, by the way, suffers from TFS. Anybody who knows my show knows what that means. Katie Britt was one of the first people to blame Gavin Newsom for these fires in California. Katie Britt was one of the first people to attack Joe Biden when we had these fires in Hawaii. Katie Britt makes it political. Every single time any undocumented immigrant commits a crime in this country, she blames Joe Biden for it. But if an undocumented immigrant commits a crime under Donald Trump, you won't hear her speak a word. Every single word out of Katie Britt's mouth when there is a tragedy that takes place in this country is political, blaming Democrats and Joe Biden. But now all of a sudden, Katie Britt is going on national television saying that we must have Trump derangement syndrome if we criticize the Trump administration for gutting the NOAA. We must have Trump derangement syndrome if we criticize Governor Abbott or MAGA Republicans in general for not doing more to warn these families of these floods that were coming here, all these innocent people that lost their lives. So we must have Trump derangement syndrome. So what should we call you when you blame Gavin Newsom for fires?
She seems kind of deranged herself.
Yeah.
I don't know why they would use the word derangement, because it seems like she wants us to focus on the positivity and the people who still picked up their children, and she's making it totally political while saying it shouldn't be political. And I think that they're probably going to face a fairly large lawsuit, possibly the government and the state of Texas. And I think people are upset. And I think that the truth is easy on this one. This is not something that...
And Kristi Noem lied, too, by the way. In holding a press conference the other day, she said that Donald Trump is enhancing the weather service systems and the technology. By the way, we learned that that was a lie. There is no evidence to prove that, and she's lying once again. I know that won't shock many of you. Katie Britt is despicable.
But are MAGAs getting tired of the lies? That's the real question.
No, I think a lot of them aren't.
Until they start to move off a center with Trump,
no.
So they start to listen to common
Leonard,
sense.
I don't think they are.
And look at you. You go in there and you speak truth and you bring up some facts. And what do? They get angry. They use the F word. They start to talk over you. You allowed Jack to speak when you're on Piers Morgan, but every time you spoke, he was speaking while you were speaking.
All the
because
time.
They cannot stand. And I have friends and family that do this. They cannot stand to hear factual evidence put out in front of them. And the more you do, instead of them moving and saying, "Oh, that kind of makes sense," what they do is they get mad,
right?
And then they don't want to talk to you, and then they want to call you names. And if they have to, they'll just cut the communication.
That's what happened yesterday, and that's when you know you've won the argument. At the same time, it's warranted. If somebody makes it personal with me, I'm going to make it personal with them. But Katie Britt is despicable. Governor Abbott is despicable. There needs to be accountability. It doesn't mean we have Trump derangement syndrome. It means that we want accountability. You guys always seem to make it political when it comes to everything, just like you guys want the Epstein file to be released. But then all of a sudden when Dear Orange
What
Leader...
Epstein file?
Yeah, exactly. The list must have disappeared. Speaking of Donald Trump, Leonard, speaking of Donald Trump, now all of a sudden, after years of Donald Trump coddling Vladimir Putin, sending him COVID test kits in the middle of COVID, calling him brilliant, a great leader, among other compliments, saying Ukraine started the war, calling Vladimir Zelensky a dictator, saying that Vladimir Putin wants peace, and after all the airstrikes and all the innocent people that have lost their lives, now all of a sudden Donald Trump is changing his tune, and apparently it took him this long. Listen to Donald Trump now and his frustrations publicly with Vladimir Putin.
We're dealing with him now too. We're not happy with Putin. I'm not happy with Putin. I can tell you that much right now, because he's killing a lot of people, and a lot of them are his soldiers and their soldiers mostly, and it's now up to 7,000 a week, and I'm not happy with Putin. Okay. Any questions? Yes.
Yes, sir. You just said you're not happy with Vladimir Putin. Is there anything that you plan to do to act on that feeling of unhappiness?
Well, I wouldn't be telling you. Don't we want to have a little surprise? You know, one of the things we did with the attack is that, and you asked that question. I didn't mean to be rude, but I'm in a rude because I'm looking at some of these crooked people up here, so I'm rude. But your question was asked very nicely. But one of the things we did is we went over every fact. We wanted to get every fact straight. We wanted to have the distance straight, the number of pilots straight. Everything had to be correct, because this was a very important mission. If we failed on this mission, it was beyond the war that, obviously we had with Iran and Israel, and a lot of hatred, a lot of years and years of hatred, centuries of hatred. People have never seen anything like it. So we wanted to be correct with all our facts. So what I was doing is just asking. It would be great if the media would be correct with their facts. That's all we asked for.
What? First of all, the question was about Vladimir Putin and Ukraine, and
that was a word salad
and
sandwich.
then he went into this diatribe about the media and other things, which was really strange. He says he's not happy with Putin. He says he thinks Putin is full of BS. You trusted Vladimir Putin a few weeks ago?
Well, he said yesterday, he's always been very nice, to me. But I guess it was all bullshit. So he said what everybody's been saying for I don't know how many years. So now it's dawning on him that he's been used and lied to. And you know what? He doesn't like it. But saying that during his campaign, saying he's going to drop bombs on Moscow,
he did say that on audio, which was a load of nonsense. Of course, Putin. Listen, it's very simple here. Benjamin Netanyahu has played Donald Trump. President Xi has played Donald Trump. Vladimir Putin has played Donald Trump. Why is this so important? First of all, it's dangerous to national security in the United States. If you coddle Donald Trump and you compliment Donald Trump, he will give you what you want. Vladimir Putin has been laughing to the bank on this one, and he continues to massacre innocent people. Yeah, Kim Jong-un is another one, the love letters and all this other
stuff.
Who's
now sending tens of thousands of more troops to Russia, which to me is an indication that Russia is doing worse than they're making it appear. And then last night, the largest scale drone attack on Ukraine so far in the war. I think he's concerned.
And while this is going on, you have the Pete Hegseth, Defense Secretary, putting a weapons pause on Ukraine.
Do you believe that? I don't believe for a second that he did that.
Well, here's why I believe he did. Because media reports are from CNN and other outlets that he did do this, and he didn't tell anybody about it. If that was the case, he would have been the first person in that press conference to say, no, I didn't do this. If he didn't do it, then maybe somebody else did. But reports are that he did do it and he didn't tell anybody about it. And Donald Trump was completely clueless. He had no idea about this. And then a few days later, all of a sudden, Donald Trump signs off on giving them the artillery that they need. This is what happens when you have incompetent people in very powerful positions. Keep in mind that there are only two people in this country that have the nuke codes. One of them is Donald Trump. The other one is Pete Hegseth, the woman abuser. So this is very dangerous stuff that we're talking about here. The war in the Ukraine is certainly worse off now than it was on day one when Donald Trump took office. We're in a war with Iran. Whether people want to admit that or not, we still are. We still have a 90-day terror threat that Kristi Noem put in place for the United States of America. We still have leaders in Iran that are threatening the United States. And Benjamin Netanyahu is getting everything he wants. And while all this is going on, Donald Trump doesn't want to talk about a guy by the name of Jeffrey Epstein. So Donald Trump claims that he hates talking about old topics and regurgitating old topics. Almost every day he still brings up the 2020 election that he claims was stolen, which it wasn't. He continues to talk about water pressure in toilets. He likes to talk about that a lot. He continues to talk.
Can ramble on that one.
Yeah, he continues to talk about immigrants being, all terrible, violent criminals. He still brings up Hillary Clinton's emails. And he still talks about the alleged Biden crime family. But when you're asked about Jeffrey Epstein, here's Donald Trump's response to that.
Yeah. Sure. Are you still talking about Jeffrey Epstein? This guy's been talked about for years. You're asking, we have Texas, we have this, we have all of the things. And are people still talking about this guy, this creep? That is unbelievable. Do you want to waste the time, and do you feel like answering?
First of all,
you still argue.
First of all, okay, let me be very clear on this. Most of his supporters are the ones that continue
Elon
to talk
Musk.
about Jeffrey
It's because
Epstein.
Elon Musk put out on Twitter and everywhere else that Donald Trump was all over the Epstein files. It was Pam Bondi. It was Patel, Kash Patel. Those are the people who are talking about it because they're trying to do the cover-up thing. But for him saying that was ridiculous, because when Elon Musk says something, it goes worldwide. That's what started it, in my opinion.
This is Donald Trump's base that floated around all these conspiracy theories. Listen, do I think there's an actual list out there? I don't know. Do I think you could compound a list of a lot of people? Sure, I think you could, absolutely. Here's what we know for sure. I said this on the Piers Morgan show the other day, and I'll say it again. Jeffrey Epstein is caught on tape calling Donald Trump his best friend. We know that Donald Trump was on the Epstein flight log at least 7 times. We know that from the Maxwell trial. We also know that Epstein flew on Donald Trump's personal plane. So we know that for sure. So if this was the other way around and it was Joe Biden that was doing that, this is all that MAGA Republicans would talk about. Pam Bondi is the one who promised the list would be released. She's the one who was gloating about this. Haba on Piers Morgan's show said that this list was going to be released.
Well, she was asked, not to interrupt you, but
Right.
she was asked about the list, not about the entire report. And she said that it's on my desk and I'm reading through it even as we speak. And let me ask you something. Have you ever been on a airplane that's called a Lolita Express 7 times?
Yeah, that's a really good point. Listen, I've said this before and I'll say it again. It's clear that the Donald Trump administration has a lot to hide. It's clear, in my personal opinion, that Donald Trump would be all over the Epstein files, and he's all over it, and he would be on the list. There's no doubt in my mind. Now, I'm sure there'd be some Democrats that are on the list as well, but guess what? Those Democrats are not in office right now.
Or
Donald Trump.
Or they might be, but the truth is the truth.
Yeah, I mean, it's also no question about it. Also, on a side note, I do want to bring this up. It appears as though George Santos is headed to prison right now without a pardon. I talked to George Santos on the phone a few weeks ago. He was not in the best of spirits.
No, he wasn't.
If you're going to ask me right now, do I feel bad for George Santos? No, I don't. He did some horrible, stupid things. But I did think that he would get a pardon. So George Santos is headed to prison if anybody cares.
Well, he can still get one.
Well, he could. That's true. Shelley on the YouTube Super Chat says a candidate in Georgia running for U.S. Senate. Her name is Candace Taylor, and she said that the weather was fake in Texas. Yes, that is true. I saw that tweet. This is someone who's running for office who said the weather is fake. These are also the same people who listen to Donald Trump when he believes you can nuke a hurricane. So, I mean, I'm not surprised that somebody would make a statement like that. I do want to open up the phone lines right now at 702-221-7283. And again, that number, if you would like to be a part of the program, now's the time to do so. The number to call is 702-221-SAVE, 702-221-7283. Here is what we are talking about with Leonard Cardinal joining us in studio. Governor Abbott yesterday holding a press conference, making analogies to these horrible and tragic floods where so many innocent people have lost their lives, including children, and making football analogies and comparing it to losing a football game and trying to come up with better plays for the next game.
Heartless.
Yeah, absolutely heartless and just despicable. And while all this is going on, the Epstein files are not being released.
Well, they don't. Didn't they say they don't exist?
They said it doesn't exist. And they put out a video claiming it was outside of Jeffrey Epstein's jail cell. First of all, it was the wrong angle for the video that they promised we were going to see. Second of all, there's a minute missing from the video. So it wasn't what they promised. So that's the second thing that we are talking about. And of course, the third thing that we're talking about now is Vladimir Putin. Now, all of a sudden, Donald Trump is saying Putin's full of crap. Did it take him this long to finally figure it out? MAGA callers are welcome to call into the show. They always are.
I'll be nice. I don't know about Brian, but I will be nice.
I can't promise you that. 702-221-7283 is the number to call. And again, that number, if you do want to be a part of the conversation, that's area code 702-221-SAVE. MAGA callers are always welcome.
Give them a little good cop, bad cop. How about
That's
that?
right. We can do that. Let's start off with Dave. Dave is first up on PTL. Hey, Dave, what's going on?
Hey, how you doing? How you doing, Leonard?
Hi,
I like
Dave.
the hairstyle, by the way.
Oh, it's growing in a little bit now. And there were 2 more people on the chat that wanted me for governor, so that's 16 total.
16 votes. That's
Yes.
good.
Oh, Leonard's awesome, man. I love Leonard. He's awesome.
Thanks, Dave.
But you know, I do want to make a point. Remember that guy from New York, the one that he got kicked out. Was he a Republican? Remember that one, that young kid? Remember that one with the glasses, and he got kicked out? You know, he was a senator. He lied about his background, high school, college, and everything else.
Oh, you're talking about George Santos.
Yeah, George Santos. Remember that?
Yeah, of course. We were just talking about that. He's headed to jail. Yeah.
He's getting booked today.
Oh, that's good. So here's the thing. I'm getting sick and tired that, you know, why can't we all be like Democrats, where I understand there's some good and bad and everything in Democrats and so forth, but I love the Democrats. But the fact is, they're all for the people. But why is it that they come in, these stupid idiot Republicans who basically want to run, who wants to leech? You know what a leech is, right? A parasite, a blood-sucking parasite.
Yep.
Who wants to leech off the taxpayer dollars to make money, to turn it into a corporation.
But this is what the Republican Party have been doing this for decades. For decades, they've been doing this.
That's their whole agenda.
This didn't start under MAGA. I've been saying this constantly, my friend, and I appreciate your call, by the way, Dave. I've been saying this constantly. MAGA Republicans have been wanting to give tax breaks for the rich for decades and want the middle class and those that are struggling, living paycheck to paycheck, to suffer. This isn't anything new, Dave, and I appreciate your call. You're right. Britt Zerker on the YouTube super chat says, if Trump is such a good businessman, why is none of these large companies asking him to run them? Well, that's also a pretty valid point.
Can I make a comment on that?
Yeah.
So I don't think having a businessman running the country is a good idea. Obviously, they don't have the political background. They don't see the geopolitical construct in the right light. They only care about the bottom line. And so I think we need somebody who's a good politician and a good businessman, because if you look at, I'm not going to belabor the point, but public money is a zero-sum game. We pay taxes and they provide services and they provide a better lifestyle for us, but it's a zero sum. There's no profit.
Yeah.
So putting a business person in charge is probably a mistake.
Yeah.
And I'll leave it at that.
Tend to agree with that. All right, let's get back to the phone calls at 702-221-7283. Let's see who we going to do next here. Let's go to Jason. Jason is next up on PTL. Hello, Jason.
Hey, is it me?
Yes, sir. Go right ahead.
Okay, that's good. So yeah, I did vote for Donald Trump. I am independent, registered independent, and you always ask us to call in. I listen to you every day. I listen to a lot of people. I did vote for Joe Biden, though, a couple years ago, and then I did vote for Donald Trump this time. So
okay. So thank you
that's
for
a little history.
All right. So
I'm
thank you.
Metro police officer. And now I do financial planning. I sell Medicaid. So
okay.
That's kind of my background.
I appreciate you for calling in. And thank you for being a police officer. I have to ask you, why did you vote for the guy who pardoned people who beat police officers on January 6th? You being a former cop yourself, doesn't that offend you?
Well, he hadn't pardoned them when I voted for them, and I don't agree.
But when he was running for office, he said he was going to pardon them. You didn't believe him, or
he said he was going to pardon those. I thought he was going to pardon those that were what he called political.
He called them hostages and patriots before he won the office.
But I actually asked his office or sent him an email and got a response back. I don't think it was him. But I said, you're not going to pardon any of the violent criminals. I'm that he had pardoned anybody that did any violent crime.
Well, Jason, how do you feel now that you know? Now that you know what he did, how do you feel now?
I'm not happy that he pardoned those. I feel betrayed, but I feel like I don't disagree with everybody he pardoned. I'm not happy. And I've looked and researched. I haven't found those sources of who he actually pardoned. I've been looking for those.
All of them.
And what actually crimes they did.
All of them.
A lot of those people, the violent criminals, some of whom beat police officers,
one had a life sentence.
Yeah.
One of them.
Okay, so let's go to something else here. You knew that he was a 34 count felon. That didn't bother you at all, being in law enforcement for all these years. That didn't bother you that he was a convicted
We're not even
felon?
allowed to associate with felons when we're active duty.
Yeah, and I didn't. This is the thing. I don't think I looked at that actually as what it was. He falsifies business records. That's a misdemeanor crime. I believe it went to Manhattan, and I do think it was, Loretta James campaigned on the fact that she was going to go convict him. I think those were, not to use a false term, but a charges.
All right, so you don't believe in the
were misdemeanors.
All right, so
and I believe they were going after
you don't. All right, so hold on.
Down.
All right, so let's talk about the first 5 months of his presidency. Are you okay with ICE agents not identifying themselves and going in there and deporting people who are nonviolent criminals? Are you okay with that? Are you okay with the fact that
I actually am okay with the deportation, and here's why. I own land in Mexico. I couldn't buy land in Mexico without a surrogate.
So it's about you then?
I believe the laws of the land should be honored.
MAGA.
Obeyed.
So it's about you then. It's not about somebody.
Well, let me ask you something, Jason. When you were an officer, didn't you have to have a badge? Didn't you have to have patches on your arms? Didn't you have to have a name tag? Didn't you have to identify yourself?
Yes,
didn't the police car have to say police on it? And if somebody said, "Who are you?" Did you go in t-shirt and jeans with a gun on and go chase people through the park and not identify yourself? How can you support that if you really were a police officer?
When I was on SWAT, I dressed just like those ICE agents.
Yeah, but that's not true. That's not true. You have to have
Yes, it
patches
is.
when you're on
I
SWAT.
had a name on. I
That
had
is
my
not
name
that is
on.
not
You're right.
accurate.
I
You
had
have to
that
have a
name on.
badge. It's a
Actually,
cloth badge,
Lombardo-
and it's a cloth.
Lombardo changed
It's
that.
you have to wear a cloth badge when you're in SWAT. You have to have a police officer badge. You have to have patches, and if you have a hat, it usually says SWAT or police on it.
Okay, so Jason, you're
And
wrong
if they
about
ask
that.
you who you are when you go in a house, you have to tell them.
Yeah, so Jason, you're wrong about that. But let's move on to some other things here. Are you comfortable with the fact that you had no problem having a guy become the president of the United States who bragged about sexually going into teenage girls' locker rooms?
No, I was sickened by that.
So why would you vote for somebody that you're sickened by?
Selectively sickened.
Well, I couldn't vote for Kamala Harris.
Why?
That's why I voted
What's
for Donald
sickened you?
Trump.
Well, tell me what's sickened you that rises to that level about Kamala Harris. Donald
Well,
Trump.
She didn't run. She didn't run. She was appointed.
Okay, so
Problems with
so you would rather
and then
vote.
I didn't like
So hold on.
She wouldn't talk about her campaign.
First of all,
Let me tell you everything why I didn't
Well,
vote
before
for her.
2016,
Hold on,
Trump
hold
didn't
on.
run.
Let's go one by
There
one.
were three main things.
Okay, hold on,
There were
Jason.
three main things.
You just said you were sickened, which I appreciate, by the way, because I am as well, of Donald Trump bragging about going into teenage girls' locker rooms. Can you name me one thing that Kamala Harris did in her life that would rise to that level?
The fact that there were just rumors.
About what?
What?
But the fact that this is the thing. I don't base on somebody's personal life. I have other things that I base it on.
You just said
What
it's
about
sickened you.
I was worried.
You just said it's sickened
But
you.
no,
I'm
this
asking.
is the thing.
You just said it's sickened you, and
I'm
Donald Trump.
telling you, and you
yeah.
cut me out, and you want to focus on that. That's not why I didn't vote for Kamala Harris.
Name me something
I
about
had to
Kamala.
plug my nose
Tell
and
me.
vote for-
Was
I
it her race?
I was sickened that this was the only choices we had.
So tell me what Kamala Harris did that was so bad. Give me a policy. Give me something that you think was.
She wanted universal health care. She campaigned.
So let's talk about that. Would you rather have 15 million Americans losing Medicaid health care coverage? You think by the way, Donald Trump is hold on. What's Donald Trump's tell me what Donald Trump's health care plan is. Tell me what Donald Trump's health care plan is. He said he had a replacement plan.
It should be
No, that's not what I asked
The
you.
government shouldn't be involved in healthcare.
Jason, I need you to focus on my
Government
question.
shouldn't be
Jason,
involved.
Jason, calm him down. Stop talking. You're not answering my
This
question.
is what they all do.
Hold on a second. Jason, you're going to listen to my question and you're going to answer it. You just said you didn't like Kamala Harris's health care plan or what she wanted to do, which was to continue Obamacare. You voted for Donald Trump. Can you tell me what Donald Trump's health care plan is? What is it? Tell me what it is.
This is the thing. That's not why I voted for Donald Trump.
Pot him down again. You're going to answer my question. I didn't ask you why you voted for Donald Trump. I just asked you for your biggest criticism of Kamala Harris. You talked about health care. I'm asking you now because I'm going to assume that health care is very important to you. Answer my question. Tell me what Donald Trump's health care plan is. Answer the question.
He wants it to be private.
Nope. Don't tell me what he wanted. I'm going to ask it now for a fourth time. You just brought up a criticism, and I don't even know what it is. It's just all Kamala Harris wanted to do.
What's wrong with universal health care?
Was universal health care, and I think a lot of people would agree with that, but that's fine. We'll take that to the side. I'm now asking you for a fifth time. What is Donald Trump's health care plan? This is the last time I'm going to ask you.
And I told you he wants it to be private.
Where's the plan? Where's the plan? Where's the plan? And was it given to Congress? Where's the plan? We were told the plan was going to come in 2 weeks and a month.
The government involved in it.
No, sir. You're wrong and you're ill-informed. Let me give you the correct answer because you have no idea what you're talking about. There is no plan. He never presented a plan to Congress in 9 years. And even when he was president, he said the plan would be here in 2 weeks. The plan would be here in a month. We're going to have it. Jason, there is no plan. So you want to criticize Kamala Harris for wanting to have universal health care and continuing Obamacare, but yet you're complaining about someone who has a plan, yet you voted for the guy in 9 years that hasn't come up with a plan. Do you realize how ridiculous that sounds, Jason?
I
don't care what you sell. You voted for a guy who doesn't have a plan.
I don't want the government.
I'm not asking you what you want. Jason, this isn't about you. I don't care what you want. You voted for a guy who doesn't have a health care plan. And when I ask you to name a criticism of Kamala Harris, you complain that she wants universal health care and wants to continue Obamacare. Do you realize how ridiculous you sound? You voted for the guy that doesn't have a health care plan. You are ridiculous.
No, I disagree.
Oh,
Like,
so
you can
so
sit
what's
here
the
and
health care plan?
criticize me.
So where's the plan? Tell me what's it
I
called?
don't want the government in health
I
care.
didn't
want
ask you.
private-
We're going back in circles again. I didn't ask you what you want, doofus. Listen to me. Donald Trump doesn't have a health care plan. He never presented one to Congress. Why is that so hard for you to understand? I'm not asking you what you want. I'm not asking you what your opinion is on what you think Donald Trump wanted. Why would you vote for a guy that doesn't know how to put policy in place and doesn't have a health care plan? If you think he does, tell me what the plan is called. He doesn't.
By the way,
Yeah, he did. It's on his website. And
It's
it
on
says
his
he wants
website.
it to be run by private entities.
And what's the
I
plan
don't
called?
want the government
What's
tell
it
me how
called?
to do it.
What's it called?
we
What's it
want
called?
private.
He doesn't want a Trump plan. He doesn't
This is a
want
guy
the
who,
government
if he,
involved in
if
his
he
career.
was a police officer, which I
Oh
don't
my
know if he
goodness
was,
gracious.
he had medical coverage his entire career, which I don't know how many years he was there, but this is coming from a person who had automatically had coverage, saying that I don't agree with a plan to have other people have coverage.
Right.
That's kind of what he's saying.
Because he only cares about himself. Sir, you just said people aren't going to lose their Medicaid coverage. Is that what you just said,
That's
sir?
not true.
This big, beautiful bill. Is that what you just said, sir?
I will debate that with him.
Nope.
Oh, so
They have an option to go work and to do. what
okay,
they
let's
need
talk
to do
about
to
that.
keep
Let's talk about that for a moment. Are you
That's-
aware,
that's
sir?
not accurate.
Are you aware, sir, that people that work in this country, 30% of them are not offered health care benefits, and half of them can't afford
Yeah,
it?
I'm one of them
Are
right
you
now.
aware? Are you
I'm
aware
one
that?
of them
So
right
why are you telling people then to work, bozo? Why are you telling people just get to work when 30% of those people aren't even offered benefits?
Can
You
I-
sound like a
Can I
clown.
ask Jason, can I ask you a question? Are you aware that in the new bill that the work requirement would end at 55 years old, and now the work requirement ends at 64? So you could be 61, 62 years old, and you could still have a work requirement where it used to end at 55. And that is going to cost millions of people to either they're not going to work, so they're going to lose their Medicaid. And you're okay with that? Are you saying you voted for that? You're okay with that?
Yeah, I did, and I want them. This is the thing. I am there. I actually filled out the paperwork for somebody to bypass that.
By the way, Medicaid isn't sold.
That's my
Medicaid,
job right
you
now.
said you sell Medicaid. Medicaid isn't even sold to private contractors. I don't even believe a
Yes,
word
it
you're saying.
is.
No, it's not. You know what, dude? You're wasting my
I don't
time.
even know if he was a cop.
You're wasting my time. You're a clown. You're a bozo.
Ask him his P
I'm
number.
done. I'm done with this.
I'll tell you my P
idiot.
number. I'll tell you my badge number.
What a clown this guy is. He sells Medicaid. You moron.
He's embarrassing Metro by acting like that
I don't
because
think-
I don't mind his position, but the way he's articulating himself.
Oh, he's just a complete.
I think maybe he got hired and was there a year or two, and
You sell Medicaid, you clown.
he didn't do 25 years. I can tell you that.
The guy's
much.
got 20 brain cells. 702-221-7283 is the number to call. Let's go to Eddie. Eddie is next on PTL. What's up, Eddie?
Lion Brian, how you doing?
Eddie, are you a MAGA?
Oh, let me ask you a question. Brian, are you there?
I'm waiting for you to say something semi-intelligent.
Oh,
sir.
that's not going to happen.
You're wasting airtime, so go ahead, Eddie. Yes, I'm here. It's my show. Are you there?
What, who's your producer?
Eddie, stop wasting time. Nobody cares about you asking about who's my producer.
We could send him knee
Why
pads
did
in the
you-
mail.
Why did you call into the show? Ask me the question you were going to ask me. And if it's not an intelligent question or a fair question, we're going to move on to the next caller. You're not wasting my time,
So I
Eddie.
can be a little punk like you. Answer the
All right,
question.
all
Answer the
right,
question. Who's
all
your
right,
producer?
all right, get rid of him. Get rid of him. Obviously, it's not a serious phone call. 702
The producer is MSNBC.
702-221-7283 is the number to call if you would like
So he's
to be
just a
part
troller?
of the conversation. Let's go to Courtney. Courtney is next on PTL. What's up, Courtney?
Hey, how you doing, Brian? It's Courtney in Brooklyn. But that last caller was a complete idiot. First of all, 6 in 10 of the people on Medicaid already have a flipping job. The other 4 can't work. They're disabled or there's some other reason that they cannot work. And you don't sell Medicaid. He was full of shit. I mean, that was stupid.
You don't sell Medicaid
state
to
decides.
private contractors. The guy has no idea what he's talking.
The state has to
And do
decide.
you find it interesting, guys? Do you find it interesting that I asked him for a criticism of Kamala and he says universal health care? which obviously I disagree with him on. I'm okay with universal health care. And then he votes for the guy that has no health care plan. He has no plan in 9 years.
Concepts. They're working on concepts of a plan.
It's just that these people are so stupid. It's unbelievable.
Exactly. And then why does any American want any other American not to have health care?
Well, that's where the
That
racism
should
comes
be
in.
right. I mean,
That's where
I
the
don't
hatred.
understand why these people even want people to be sick and dying.
That's where the racism comes in. That's when the hating the poor people for being poor comes in. That's where the misogyny comes in. And that's where the hatred that they're spreading all over America, that's where it comes in. They don't care if it hurts them, MAGAs, in my opinion, as long as them other people don't get it.
By the way, that guy doesn't sell Medicaid. He sells Trump Bibles. Let's just call it for what it is. That guy sells Trump trading cards, and he sells Confederate flags, and he sells Trump Bibles, that loser. Thank you for the call, my dear. I appreciate you. When Governor Abbott was talking about losers, he was talking about that guy who claims he sells Medicaid to private contractors. 702-221-7283.
I think he was lying about a lot of
I
things.
think he was lying about a lot. Let's go to Rebecca. Rebecca's next on PTL. And by the way, Leonard got him on identifying himself when he was in law enforcement. The guy just...
Which former police officer would agree with men running around with a jacket and some jeans and a gun and a black mask, not identifying? That's just not America. That's like Nazi Germany.
Absolute. The guy lies almost as much as Donald Trump. Rebecca's next. Hey, Rebecca, what's going on?
Hi, Brian and Leonard.
Hey,
Love you both. Leonard for governor.
Oh, that's 17.
Yeah, and I have a lot of family in Nevada, and they would vote for you.
Let's go.
I'm sorry. The buck stops with Governor Abbott. He has blood on his hands. All those babies drowning when he could have put in a $50,000 siren up there. One of the commissioners said it was about $50.
They're more
and he
concerned
wouldn't
about.
do it.
He's more concerned about building a wall and laughing when migrants that are trying to cross the border drown.
How about the buoys with barbed wire?
They care more about crocodile Alcatraz.
Oh, he's proud of that.
Sad.
But what it showed me is that, and maybe you would agree, Rebecca, Governor Abbott is kind of a soulless, like sociopathic kind of he has no feeling, no heart. So when you ask him a question publicly and he has to answer it, he actually tells you what he really thinks, because he doesn't feel what we feel. His heart doesn't break for those children.
Yeah.
They show these pictures of these young girls at this camp, and they're gone. They're gone.
And he wants to talk about a football. He wants to talk about a high school football game. What a
He's
great analogy.
sadistic,
Football's
just like
entertainment.
Donald Trump and Kristi Noem.
They're despicable human
They're all
beings.
sadistic.
They're despicable human beings, and we have to live with this at least for the next 3.5 years. Governor Abbott is just an awful human being. I put him in the same category as a Marjorie Taylor Greene and others. It's absolutely despicable and disgusting, and we appreciate your phone call.
Thanks.
702-221-7283 is the number to call if you would like to be a part of the conversation. Let's go to Ronnie. Ronnie is next up on PTL. Hello, Ronnie.
Hi, Brian, and your partner there. That guy a few calls ago, he sounded just like you. Answer the question. That was great. He sounded just like you, Brian. Answer the question.
I mean, I don't know what the question was that he was trying to ask. He asked me what the name of my producer was, which is totally academic to the topics that we are talking about today.
Ronnie, do you believe in Trump derangement syndrome?
Why do you say that?
Oh, okay.
I was wondering
if was funny. Answer the question.
I was
Okay.
wondering if that was if you think it's a real thing, or does it affect MAGA and they're just saying it affects other people, but they're really the deranged ones, or do you believe that the Democrats are the deranged ones? He got quiet. Why did he get quiet?
No one needs to be deranged. I just think that the people that listen to and follow Trump have a better idea and better thoughts on their head as to a better country.
Okay, so how are we a better country under Donald Trump? Let's talk about that, since you would probably claim you're one of those
name
people.
one thing.
What has he done to make us a better country, sir?
Hey, Brian, what are you going to use 2016 talking points on?
Yes,
Ronnie,
yes.
you're going to answer
And
my question.
2020 and
Ronnie,
2024.
Okay, hold on. Ronnie, I know you're trying to be funny. You're not. Let's try to have a real conversation if you're capable. Okay, Ronnie, because you're not funny. You're obviously a Trump supporter. You think Trump is doing good things for the country. I'm asking you to name some things. Okay, so let me finish, and then it's your turn. Okay, sir, that's how it works. So, Ronnie, Name me something you think Donald Trump has done in the first 5 months or so that you think is really good for the country, and then we'll talk about it. Go ahead, Ronnie.
I will answer it as long as you don't interrupt me.
This is my show.
Can't guarantee that.
Ronnie, I'm going to repeat something that I've said on this show before. This is my show and not yours. If I want to hang up on you, I will do so. Nobody forced you to call into the show. So stop with your, prearranged, don't do this to me. Don't be a snowflake and answer the question.
Well, if you make an intelligent argument.
What has Donald Trump done in the first 5 months that you think is good for the country? Name me two things. Two things, Ronnie.
Go.
I like the tariffs that he put on the other countries.
What tariffs did he put on the other countries? Can you be specific? What tariffs are you referring to?
Well, all the tariffs that he's charging other people to bring their good stuff.
Okay, so Ronnie, when you say you like the tariffs he's implemented with other countries, you have to be specific. There are a lot of countries out there. Name me a country and name me the tariff that because if you say you like a tariff, surely you could name the percentage in the country, right? So tell me, can you name one?
It's more like the fact that I like the theory that
No. Ronnie, okay, Ronnie, hang on. Let's okay, so Ronnie, I didn't ask you about a theory. I need you to focus, okay, Ronnie? I'm trying to have a conversation with you. You said you like the tariffs he's imposed on other countries. In order for us to have a conversation, we have to talk about one specific country and one specific tariff that you would be referring to instead of making generalized statements. Ronnie, name me a specific country. Ronnie, I need you to stop talking and I need you to listen to the question and pay attention, okay? Try to focus, all right? Name me the country and the tariff, and then let's talk about it, okay? Go ahead, Ronnie.
Right, you name a tariff and you name a country.
No. I'm not the one who brought up the tariffs. You did. I'm not the one who said I like or don't like a tariff. The question was to you, Ronnie. I said, what has Donald Trump done that you like? You said tariffs, okay? For example, if you asked me some of the things that I like under Joe Biden, I would say bipartisan infrastructure bill. We needed our roads fixed, our airports, our bridges, okay? It helps travel. It helps tourism. The CHIPS and Science Act, for example, I would say, among capping insulin at $35, Plan B and Plan D on most people's Medicaid, millions of Americans paying less for their insulin. You see how that works, Ronnie? I name a policy, and then I'm able to be specific. You saying you like the tariffs, I like those tariffs in general theory, is not an answer. When you say you like something, be specific on what you like, okay? So I'll give you one more opportunity since you failed on the tariffs. Give me something else. Ronnie, what do you like that Donald Trump has done in the first 5 months that you can be specific about? And then we could have a conversation about it, Ronnie, because you failed the first time. Go ahead, Ronnie.
All right. I also like the fact that as of now, he has not brought out the Epstein files.
Hey,
hold on. Let's just respond to that.
Can I help him out?
Yeah, let's just respond to this real quickly. He likes the fact that the Epstein files haven't been released. Why is that a good thing, Ronnie?
Well, I can't see anything good happening out of it.
So you don't. Okay. So hold on. So knowing that there might be some people out there that molested children, you don't think it would be a good thing to find out who those people are and hold them to account
and sold them?
That's not a good thing.
Well, your partner there is a former cop.
I don't care.
There are things that cops shouldn't be talking about.
No.
And they
really?
Be doing
There's things cops should be talking about.
What are you,
Ronnie? Let me help you out. Can I help him out? Let me give you a clue. Let's talk about Vietnam tariffs, because we did make a deal with Vietnam. Are you aware what deal we made with Vietnam? No. So let me tell you what happened. Trump said that he made a deal with them for no tariffs, and he's touting what a great job he did. But did you know that there never were any?
But Leonard, he doesn't even really.
But there never were any.
But this guy doesn't even know what a tariff is. Let's go back to. I hear what you're saying.
Who gets taxed?
Yeah,
who gets taxed with a tariff?
He doesn't even know what a tariff is, or the American consumer has to pay for it. But let's go back to Epstein for a minute, because this is interesting. Ronnie just said he thinks of all the things that he thinks Donald Trump did well, he names the fact that the Epstein files weren't released. Ronnie, so you don't think people should be held to account for molesting children? Is that what you're saying, Ronnie?
Well, I wonder what his background is.
Ronnie, you don't think
I didn't say that. I didn't say that.
So what are you saying?
Said that.
I didn't say that.
Oh, well, so what are you saying then?
Again, I think that there's certain things like the police work, and that should not be let out to the public.
The police work. No, hold on. The police work is not being let out to the public. I have no idea what you're talking about.
He's talking about an investigation and keeping it private. However, that's only when you're doing the investigation. When the investigation's done, then it's public information, and that's everybody.
Hey,
that's
Ronnie.
not just Trump.
Hey, Ronnie, doofuses like you for years were. Hey, Ronnie, listen, get the MAGA wax out of your ears and listen, okay? Mr. Epstein Jr., why don't you pay attention, okay? So for years, the Trump administration, that means you need to shut up, otherwise I'm going to pod you down again, okay? Okay. For years, the Epstein files were talked about from people like you. It's going to be Bill Clinton. It's going to be Democrats. But then all of a sudden we learned that Donald Trump was once best friends with Jeffrey Epstein, and he was on the flight log 7 times. And Epstein was on Donald Trump's private jet. Do you think, Ronnie, there might be a possibility that maybe Donald Trump might be in those files? What do you think about that, sir?
We don't know anything because
you don't know. Exactly. You don't know. So why is it a bad thing to release the files then? So maybe we all would know, Ronnie. Don't you think it's a good thing to expose the people who were molesting children? Why do you think? Okay, give me one legitimate reason why they don't want to release this list and these files. Give me a reason. Go ahead, Ronnie. Give me a legitimate reason.
Right. You don't know if he's been on that list either.
Give me a legitimate reason. Give me a reason why you don't think they're releasing the files then.
Because they're doing their investigation.
Nope, the investigation is over. Wrong. The investigation is over. Wrong. Let's try for the second prize.
I wish he would make a point. I really do.
Yeah, give me another reason. The investigation is over, so you're wrong about that. Give me a legitimate reason why. Give me a legitimate reason, in your opinion, which you won't be able to come up with, why they won't release the files. I'll give you another shot at it, pal.
Okay, so how about if I give you a different topic?
No, you're staying on the same topic. Nope. Sorry, you're not going to get away with this. You said it's a good thing. You're the one who brought it up. You said it's a good thing that they're not releasing the Epstein files. Give me one legitimate reason why you think they're not releasing the files. Go. I'm giving you an opportunity. The investigation was over, so you're wrong about that. Go ahead.
I don't know.
You don't know because you're an idiot.
Answer.
Yeah.
Thank you. Can I ask a question, Ronnie? Let me ask you something.
Government, and that's not my thing.
How do you think they convicted Maxwell with no information? Why don't you explain to me how that happened?
He doesn't even know who Maxwell is.
He
doesn't even know who Maxwell is. You think this guy knows who Maxwell is? He doesn't even know how tariffs work.
But they had to have the information.
Go ahead, buddy. What else were you going to say? You sound like a really smart guy. Go ahead.
I know how tariffs work.
Okay, who has to pay for it? Who gets taxed? Who gets taxed? Who gets taxed on tariffs? Huh?
The other country.
This guy, you know what? I've had it with you, brother. I've had it with you. The American consumer is the one that has to pay. You don't even know how tariffs work. You don't know who Maxwell is. You couldn't name anything that Donald Trump has accomplished in his first 5 months. You are an imbecile, and you are your typical Donald Trump supporter. You have crap for brains. You clearly are not educated. And have a nice day, sir. You're Donald Trump's base. Holy schmagoli.
That was interesting. Wow.
702-221-7283, the number to call. Let's go to Mark. Mark is next up on PT. What did he say? How
even the people in the live chat are laughing at him. They're like, they need to check his hard drive.
What did he say? How tariffs work? The other countries pay for it. Is that what he said?
That would be nice.
Oh my goodness gracious! Yeah, there's no way he knows who Maxwell is. By the way, no way.
So that was
But he thinks it's good.
I was trying to help him. I was trying to throw him a bone about Vietnam and about the Maxwell trial. I was trying to help him to get him, thinking in the right direction.
He thinks it's a good thing that the Epstein files weren't released, but he doesn't know why, and he wants to move on to something else. Anyway, I'm sorry. Let's go to Mark. Mark, what's going on?
My brain is dead. It's broken. Oh my God, it is completely broken. I can't even think anymore. I'm going to try to get out my 2 points. But I was going to say something else until that first clown who claimed he was a cop. The minute I heard that he didn't wear a badge as some kind of special unit.
SWAT. He said he was
Leonard,
SWAT.
You stated that they would wear cloth badges.
That's correct.
I knew he was full of crap and he was not a cop. And he also lied about selling Medicaid, but that was already covered. You don't sell Medicaid. The government looks into your work record and your salary and to see if you qualify. That's how that works. And the tariffs, we all know that the consumer who laid the tariffs the country that laid the tariffs onto the other country, the consumer pays for the tariffs.
Mark, let me
But
ask
he
you.
also came up with something.
Let me ask you a question, Mark.
What
do you think of the fact that Trump just decided, now that it's July 9th, that now the tariffs are going to take place in 2 weeks on August 1st? And he says, he always said August 1st. He told them he never moved the date. Do you believe that?
The reasoning why he keeps moving the date is because I think deep down he knows it's going to hurt the American consumer, and a lot of people are going to start coming out about how prices are going to start rising, skyrocketing. So I think deep down he knows what tariffs will do, so he keeps delaying and delaying, just like all court dates where he delays and delays and delays. If
I think it's just a bluff.
If he knows he's going to lose.
It's like poker. You can bluff once, maybe bluff twice in poker, but eventually people are going to know that you're bluffing and they're not going to respect it.
That's true. And we know that Putin, Kim Jong-un, President Xi, pretty much world leaders all over the country know that he's bluffing. And unfortunately, the people that are losing all their chips are the American people, not the president of the United States. 702-221-7283. It's time for the MAGA Destroyer. We got to go to Darlene, who's next up on PTL. Hey, Darlene, what's going on?
Is this the Darlene?
Hey, yep, it's me. Hey, Brian, and hey, Leonard.
Hi, Darlene.
Now, y'all hold on for a second, because I got an announcement to the ladies and a few men. Y'all are lucky today, because I heard today is Chippendale Day in Las Vegas. And we're supposed to get to watch these two guys dance.
Let's go.
So, come on, guys.
That's not happening, but maybe we can invite George Santos to a show before he goes to jail today.
Anyway, what I was
Or
gonna
Lindsey
say-
Graham, perhaps.
George Santos would do anything to get out of jail.
Yeah, that's
he
true.
might do it.
He would. No, he would enjoy it. He would enjoy it.
Okay, what I was going to say was, Jason, I hope you're listening to me, because I'm the MAGA Destroyer. We have dumb people call in here all the time, and some of them are like Al and Herb, dumb, stupid, they don't know nothing. But let me tell you something, sweetie. You have won the prize. You have to be one of the stupidest, dumbest idiots I've ever heard on the radio before. And you have won that award.
Do you think he has some
Brian
insecurity?
Leonard?
You think he's just insecure?
I just think he's crazy. I don't know what is his problem. I mean, how can you be so dumb?
I was having a conversation with a friend of mine yesterday, and you know what she said to me? She said, "Why do these MAGA callers call in when they have absolutely no facts?" I said, because that's who MAGA people are. Many of them have no facts.
Low information.
They're low information people. They defend the indefensible. And this is Donald Trump's base. That's what I told her,
Oh, it's horrible. And my heart goes out to all the victims and all the children. And all. I have cried for a long time over that. And I hope that everything can get better sometime.
I hope so too, Darlene. And we're glad that you called in, Darlene, and we hear you. And we're with you on that, no question, with the families of all those victims in Texas. It's absolutely a tragedy. Thank you for the call, my dear. Let's go to David. David is next up on PTL. Hey, David, what's going on?
Hey, thanks, Brian. In regard to the Jeffrey Epstein files and everything, I agree that it's pretty evident that Trump is likely a part of it and he wants to keep it. He doesn't want to talk about it. And the people under him are hypocrites for saying they want to release it. And now you're looking at it and now they're not doing it. And my question to you and your co-host, Leonard, I believe his name is, if during the election season last year, why do you think a lot of Democrats weren't pushing to get the Epstein files released if they presumably thought Trump was on them? Because wouldn't that most likely have sunk his campaign?
That's easy. Start looking at some of the famous people that are probably on that list.
Yeah.
And the friends of Hollywood and the friends of Democrats. Just my opinion.
So, David, first of all,
that's exactly my point.
I've been okay, but you voted for Donald Trump. So, I mean, you voted for a guy who's probably in the Epstein files. So, I mean, where's your credibility on this issue? I wouldn't vote for Bill Clinton, and I wouldn't vote for anybody that's on that list. And I'm sure there are Democrats that are on that list as well. But that doesn't excuse the fact that Donald Trump is the president of the United States. He was once best friends with Jeffrey Epstein. He was on the flight log 7 times, and that's the guy who you voted for, David. Am I wrong?
No, you're not wrong. But my point is that I haven't seen any direct evidence that he is on it. Now it seems like
then why is he not releasing it? Why is he not releasing them then? Why are they not releasing the files?
Well, as I've already explained, because he's likely on them as is
okay. Thank you. So we
else.
agree. Why did you vote for him then if you knew that he was most likely on this list, that he was best friends with Jeffrey Epstein? Why would you vote for someone that you think most likely is a child predator?
Well, because I haven't seen any significant direct.
Then why would you say most likely? Then why did you say most likely just now then?
Because he most likely is, again, as everybody else is. And I'm not saying that to disregard.
Everybody? So Joe Biden? So Kamala? Hold on.
By everybody's, I mean
hold on. Was Kamala Harris most likely on the Epstein Island? You said most people.
Most likely, no idea.
Okay, all right. So you didn't vote for.
Well, you're dealing in absolutes.
No, I'm not.
When I say everyone, I don't.
Doing what you're doing. He's giving an example.
I'm giving you an example. Kamala Harris was never best friends with Jeffrey Epstein. She never associated herself with the Epstein. You and I agree. Donald Trump is most likely in the Epstein files. You decided to vote for somebody who is most likely, your own words, a child predator because you have to show me the evidence. You just said most likely.
He admitted that he went and stared at 15-year-old girls in the Miss America contest. He admitted he went in the dressing room.
Okay, so David, were you asking that of Donald Trump every single day to this day when he says he won the 2020 election? Were you saying you have to show me the evidence, sir?
Yeah, I was. Yes.
So why did you vote? So why did you vote for the guy who still hasn't conceded the 2020 election
and hasn't provided evidence
and hasn't provided any evidence? Since you care so much about evidence, why did you vote for that guy?
Because the policies that he was going to or said he would implement, I agreed with more. Well, his policy on the border, many of his economic policies. I agreed with that more.
What economic policies? Giving the biggest tax breaks to the top 1% in the big beautiful bill. You think that's a really
border
good
policy? Sending out ICE in regular clothes with masks to take moms and children and husbands and grandfathers and deport them to any country they want, not even the country of origin. So you're okay with his border policy?
I'm okay with. Let me clarify. When I say I'm okay with the policy, I'm not saying I'm okay with 100% of every aspect of that policy. I mean, you'd have to break it down scenario by scenario for me to tell you whether or not I agree with it or not. I agree with him closing the border. I agree with things he says he wants to do with the economy. So far, he hasn't done them, and I'm not happy about that. But that's what I'm saying. I agree with some.
So it's okay to boot the immigrants who built this country, the immigrants who came and picked strawberries and picked cotton and built houses and bridges. It's okay to just give them the boot now because we don't want them here?
I'm sorry. Are you saying legal immigrants or illegal immigrants?
No, I'm talking about illegal immigrants, millions of them, who built this country and did jobs that I will talk about myself. I'm not going to speak for you, and doing jobs that I would never do. So milking cows, waking up at 5 a.m. to pick strawberries from a tree.
I agree, but this is a bigger issue, David. You care about the rule of law, so you claim. You don't want people to break the law in the United States of America, yet you have no problem voting for a 34-count felon. Doesn't that make you a hypocrite?
Well, no, I'll explain why.
Because that was a political prosecution. It was political prosecution, and they overcharged him, and it was a kangaroo court. I know exactly what you're going to say, David, but it doesn't change the fact that he's a 34-count felon. Are you okay with
you're going to ask me a question. You're not going to
No, because I've asked you that before, and you give me the same stupid
answer.
I'll
ask you a question. Do you think America in its entirety should be white? Do you believe it should only be white and that everybody else should get the boot?
What does that have to do with anything?
No, I'm asking to find out what kind of where your mentality. You said ask a question. That's my question. Do you believe that America should be completely white and everybody else needs to go?
No.
Okay, so David, I'm glad to hear that. Are you okay with ICE agents deporting people, some who are nonviolent criminals, and sending them to an El Salvador prison, to places of that nature when they have never been convicted of a violent crime in their life just because they're undocumented? Are you comfortable with that, sir?
So just to be clear, your question specifically is I'm okay with ICE bringing people to El Salvadorian prisons.
And Libya and South Sudan. And Rwanda, is that okay?
My specific question, sir, is if you are a non-violent criminal and you happen to be undocumented, are you okay with sending those people to some of the highest maximum security prisons in the world with no due process? Are you okay with that?
No.
That's exactly, you just said you liked his immigration policy. That's exactly what Donald Trump is doing.
I told you, I said I like some of it and don't like other parts of it. You're conveniently not mentioning that.
What part do you like?
I'm sure.
How about you start with that, Brian?
If you don't mind, I'm sure if Kamala won or any other Democrat won, I'm assuming, Brian, you wouldn't agree with 100% of what they're doing.
Kamala Harris would never wrong. Kamala Harris would never have ripped up parts of the Constitution and changed the wording in the Constitution. It's very clear.
No, she would have just told us the border was secure when 20 million people.
Not true. Not true. In fact,
she wouldn't violate people's rights.
Not true. In fact, Kamala Harris was one of the people at the forefront of putting a bipartisan bill together that your orange turd that you voted for told them not to vote against.
Republicans voted it down. That's a fact.
So you're making gross assumptions that are absolutely factually not true, and you're making excuses for the orange man who you voted for, who's not giving people due process.
How am I making excuses? I just told you I completely disagree.
So tell me how Kamala Harris. So tell me how Kamala Harris would break parts of our Constitution the way Donald Trump has and break the law. Tell me.
I didn't say she'd break parts of the Constitution.
Is Donald Trump doing that? Is Donald Trump doing that?
Part of it, yes, he is doing it in part, and I completely disagree with that. How many times do I have to tell you that I disagree with a lot of what he's doing?
Okay, so what?
I agree with
okay,
a lot
so
of
you
what
don't.
he's
You agree.
doing.
You agree. So what
did.
else is he doing? What else is he doing? You mentioned immigration. You were very sketchy on that. You agree with some parts, some other parts. Name me something else.
Sketchy at all.
Name me something else.
Talk about it point by point, but you didn't want to hear it.
Oh no,
you didn't go point by point.
You didn't go point by point. You didn't make it clear.
We want to go point by point. What is the things that you like about the immigration policy? Name one thing that you like about it. You said they closed the border.
Yeah, and that's the one thing. You asked me to name one thing. That's one of the things that I like about it. The Remain in Mexico policy. I mean, the amount of illegals that have come into this country now are a fraction of what they were during the last 4 years. I mean, is that not significant?
So now that it's down to zero, how do people get citizenship? You think they should go through the courts and they should go to go and try to get their visas and their green cards, or they should just get kicked out? Because Trump's policy is just kick them out.
You're saying who? Kick illegals out? Or
there are people that have a court date who are here on an asylum to see a judge. They're canceling their court hearing while they're in the front lobby and then arresting them and deporting them. You agree with that? Because that's his policy. That's a fact. You want to talk about a point? That's a point.
I'll say it again. There's a lot. That's something I disagree with.
It seems like a lot you disagree. You don't think this has anything to do. So David,
it's like 9 out of 10.
So David, yeah, like 9 out of 10 things. So David, you don't think this has anything to do with skin color. So let me ask you a question. When Donald Trump and his administration allowed 100% white people from South Africa to come into this country, full asylum, is he doing that for brown people as well, or do you think that's just a coincidence?
Well, I'm sorry. Did you say full asylum?
There are 10 people from South Africa that they welcomed in here with open arms and that were seeking asylum. Do you think their skin color had something to do with that, or you think that's just a coincidence? Is he doing that for brown people as well?
He's not doing it for people from the southern border because tens of millions of them came in illegally.
So why is it that they were 10 people that happened to be 100% white from South Africa? Do you think that's a coincidence?
Well, to my understanding, in the South African case, they were being persecuted by their government.
Why were they 10 white people? Why no brown people? You think that's just a coincidence?
Yeah, but that's why the people from Venezuela and El Salvador come here for the same reason.
Okay,
they're persecuted.
So, David, you're not willing to.
You can only take a certain amount. We're not willing to admit what I'm literally answering the question in good faith. You're asking, and I'm telling you my opinion on it. Look, I'm not saying I know all the facts. I'm just telling you my opinion. With respectfully, Brian, you're perfectly. You can disagree. That's fine. But my point is.
Thank you.
Again, millions of people came. I'm sorry. Well, I'm sorry. Millions of people came into the country legally through the southern border, so they shouldn't be granted any sort of amnesty or anything. That's absurd.
They're granted court dates. They're trying to become citizens. That's what I'm
All
trying
right.
to
So
tell
you think illegals are just a huge problem in this country? Can you name me something else you think Donald Trump has done in the first 5 or 6 months that you think is really good for the country?
Sure. I like the fact of what he's trying to do with some of the tariffs. He hasn't implemented them yet.
Wait, hold on.
I disagree.
He hasn't done that. And by the way, the American consumer paying for it.
He hasn't done
okay, so name me something that he's done. He's had 6 months.
Well, I just did. I said he's trying to push these tariffs. Some of them I disagree with, and some of them I do agree with.
Got you. I'm trying to.
Do you think that he's chickened out? Hasn't he chickened out on the tariffs? I mean, we only have a couple of deals. One's with UK. And essentially, it's the same deal we've always had.
Yeah.
And then he bragged about Vietnam and saying he got a deal with them and got them to trade for free, which was always that's
David,
the Biden.
David
agreement.
On the phone, who is a Donald Trump supporter, I asked him to name some things that Trump done that's good, and he says Well, he's trying to do this. I didn't ask you to name things that he's trying to do. Do you think, since you care about the economy,
things take time.
Things take time. Sure. Okay. So since you care about the economy and you claim to, do you think giving the biggest tax breaks to the top 1%, which is in the big and beautiful bill in the history of this country, is good for the economy?
No.
It's not. Okay, so that's kind of a big part of his big and beautiful bill. Do you think when 10 to 15 million Americans lose their Medicaid, do you think that's good for the economy? Taking $10 billion away from food stamps?
How about children?
Yeah, you
How
think
about
that's
children not having meals in school anymore because they cut the SNAP program by $300 million?
Are any of those things good, David, for the economy?
300 billion.
Since you care so much about the economy and human beings, are you okay with 15 million people losing their health care coverage?
No, I'm not okay with people.
You're not okay with that. Okay.
But, well,
Gotcha.
can I explain? Well, let me explain. First of all, I don't believe all the negative things that are being said about the bill because they're being said. I take it with a grain of salt what people say. I don't believe all the good things that are allegedly said in the bill and all the bad things that are said about it because I don't believe the media.
No,
when
facts are facts, whether you believe them or not.
The media is not. The media is not saying it. There are actually MAGA Republicans on Fox News that have admitted that at least 10 million Americans are going to lose their Medicaid coverage. So that's a lie. What you just said. It's not just the media. It's actually in.
Excuse me. Are they not the media,
sir?
You just said.
It's
well, Tom Tillis is not the
they're
media, and he spoke against it, and he said it was terrible.
It's in the bill, and even Langford and Tillis and other Republicans have admitted that at least 10 million Americans are going to lose their health care coverage. Those aren't members of the media or people that you listen to like Jesse Waters. Those are actually elected officials and Republicans.
And they weren't going to vote for it until they put the knee pads on.
Yeah.
They put the knee pads on, and they went and they voted for it anyway. By their own admission, the Republicans said it was a terrible bill.
So you agree that Donald Trump is probably...
I don't disagree.
You agree that this is a terrible bill. You agree that Donald Trump is most likely in the Epstein files, and that's why they won't release it. You agree that we shouldn't be deporting nonviolent criminals to El Salvador prisons and not giving them due process, but you're still full-on support. But you're still...
He'd probably vote for him again. You'd vote for him again, wouldn't you?
You would, wouldn't you? You'd vote for Donald Trump again.
That's okay. You can say we know. You can say.
I mean, it depends on who he's running against.
Yeah, you wouldn't vote for that brown lady, though, would you? You wouldn't vote for that brown lady.
Right. Everything's about race.
Yeah, no, with you it is.
It seems like
with you everything's about race because all you want to talk about is how undocumented immigrants are ruining your life. How are they ruining your life?
I didn't bring up race one time. Mention one time I brought up race.
Yeah, I find it interesting that your go-to is always undocumented immigrants when every per capita an American citizen has the better chance of committing a crime against somebody like you than an undocumented immigrant.
And I bet it's never affected his life in a negative way.
How are undocumented immigrants affecting your life in a negative way? Please answer that, sir.
Well, one example.
Is that a serious question?
Yes, it is. Answer it.
That's a very serious question.
Answer it.
I'll explain. Okay, sure, I'm willing to answer. When you flood a country with millions and millions of people, it has serious. Okay, yeah, 20 million people walk in the country.
It's not flooded, and there's a lot of things that they do that help the country, not hurt the country, and I will gladly explain that with you, the positives that many of these people bring to this country.
So they're allowed to come in here just because they allegedly help the country?
Didn't say that.
What?
Didn't say that.
You can break the law.
Okay,
well,
again,
that was the policy. That was the policy at the time. And let me ask you this. If you love Trump so much, how did 2016 to 2020 go by and no wall was built, no immigration policy, no stopping the immigrants? They did nothing. He said, I'm going to build a big, beautiful wall, and I'm going to have Mexico pay for it. And you know what happened? People like you believed that he was going to build a big, giant wall with a beautiful door in it to let the people that he wanted. But you know what? That never happened. So 4 years went by, and Trump administration did nothing about immigration. So when you talk about decades and millions of people, what did he do? Nothing.
David, I'm going to add something to what Leonard just said.
Let me just finish one thing. And he had the Congress and the Senate for 3 years. For 3 years, he had both.
David, I'm going to add something that I think is very, very important because you talk about the rule of law and you talk about breaking the law, yet you had no problem. Once again, it's an issue of credibility, voting for a guy who pardoned a bunch of January 6th insurrectionists who beat cops and called them.
I no problem.
You're talking about the rule of law, yet you voted for a guy who called them hostages and patriots and a guy who is a convicted 34-count felon. So don't preach to us about how much you care about the rule of law and people breaking the law when you wanted the leader, you voted and you still support the leader of the free world who has no problem pardoning those who beat police officers with their own batons. And by the way, those people on January 6th were not undocumented immigrants. You know who they were? They were white Donald Trump supporters and white supremacists. And he called them hostages
We've
and
had this
patriots.
conversation before. I told you I disagree with what he did with that. I agree with some of them.
He pardoned people that pled guilty. People pled guilty in the court of law, and he pardoned that.
Don't preach to us about rule of law when the bottom line is.
When did I preach about rule of law? You're the one who
You were talking about illegal immigrants. You were talking about undocumented immigrants.
You have a problem
like it was a big crime.
People that have lived in this country for decades that pay their taxes.
Correct.
They might not. Excuse me. They might not have the right paperwork, but they've never committed a violent crime. But you seem to have more a problem with them than people who beat cops on January 6th, who the guy who you voted for called them hostages and patriots. And that makes you a hypocrite, David. Repeat after me. I'm David and I'm a hypocrite.
It doesn't make me a hypocrite.
Yes, it does. Yes, it does.
Yes, it does, because
Let
Biden.
me explain to you why you're a hypocrite. Here's why you're a hypocrite. Every single time me and Leonard talk to MAGA supporters and say, why did you vote for Trump? Well, because he's getting all those illegal immigrants out of the country, many of whom have never committed a violent crime in their life. But you see these people more as a threat than people who beat cops on January 6th, who were chanting, hang Mike Pence, who the guy who you voted for called them hostages and patriots. And then you say, well, I don't agree with that, but let's talk about those
and
undocumented
he couldn't name
immigrants.
one thing that affected him negatively, but if you're going to blame Biden and you're going to blame Obama and you're going to blame George Bush and talk about decades and millions, then you know what? You got to blame Donald Trump, because he was president for 4 years.
David.
And he had the House and the Senate for 3 years on his side and did nothing.
David,
but talk about a stupid wall that was never built.
David, that's what makes you a hypocrite. I appreciate you calling in and I appreciate the conversation, but
facts,
you are
though.
not consistent and you are a hypocrite. Let's move on to the next caller. Let's go to Gary. Gary is next up on PTL. Hey, Gary, what's going on?
Hey, Brian, this is Gary. I'm up here in Riverbank, California. And I got something to say to that guy that, I live in abject poverty. I've been disabled since the age of 53. All my fun and games and hard work caught up to me.
Sorry to hear that.
I was grateful. I had Social Security. I've been paying into Social Security since the age of 14. And they're telling me that they want to take that away. That infuriates me.
Well, did you know that the no tax on Social Security actually doesn't kick in until 2026? And did you know that it's only for the most eldest of the Social Security? And by the way, it only lasts 2 or 3 years. So so once again, it was a magic wand. It was a glazing over and no taxes. And we could get into no tips. No taxes on tips. We can get into no taxes on overtime, because you know what? It was a sham. And if anybody wants me to explain in detail what I mean, unlike a MAGA, I have facts.
I understand. You guys, I praise you guys every day. You're the only show I listen to with any intent.
Well, thank you. That certainly means a lot, my friend. I really do appreciate.
We're all glad Brian does what he does.
Appreciate you guys, and thank you for those compliments. By the way, quick reminder, YouTube Super Chat, we'll get right back to it here in just a few minutes, where you can make donations and your questions and comments will be read live on the air. Also, the website, this is an independently owned radio show, so we rely on good people like yourselves at PTL Nation. You go to pushingthelimits.live, where you can buy merchandise, PTL gear, hats, beanies, you name it. We sell it, shirts. Chicago Rob says Republicans want to get rid of the same government they love to poach on. I completely agree with you on that one, Chicago Rob, and I appreciate your support. Again, that website I'm being asked is pushingthelimits.live. No Money says, Brian, the confidence of MAGA for Trump is off the rails. They're proud of their stupidity and not knowing facts and celebrating their low IQs. Well, I think that's been proven with some of the MAGA callers who have called into this show today. That is for certain. Shelley says MAGA will care about Medicaid if they ever need it. You're right.
If it affects them, correct. Exactly. And some of them are starting to get mad. They were upset about the Iran attack. Mm-hmm. They got upset about the taxes. And eventually, I don't know what holds those MAGAs. They're like a dog who has a bone and won't let it go. Won't eat for days because they don't want to give up the bone.
Yeah, well, Stormy Daniels gave up the bone in 12 seconds. She got paid $130,000 for it.
It went from 13 to 12?
It's a very small bone. Henry Nugat says, Question for Leonard. Are the undercover agents doing field work? Because that was the reason provided by Kristi Noem about why ICE wearing masks during the hunts.
Right. Okay. So undercover officers are in a specific situation. I can't talk about the exact operational details, but they're undercover. Now, if it escalates and they should have to take people into custody and they should have to have people resist, they have to identify themselves. Even undercovers have to pull their badge out from underneath their shirt. They have to they have credentials on them. They have to identify themselves when you're making an arrest, when you identify yourself. Otherwise, this is what would happen. You'd have officers in masks and undercover with no identifiable, nothing on their uniform, and they would go up to you and say, you're under arrest. Well, you have to identify yourself.
Of course.
Now, if that person gets shot, even in undercover, if they get shot trying to arrest someone without telling them they're a cop, then it would be like, was it self-defense or was it legit? No, it was because they were a cop. So this person is asking, well, what about these undercover people? And they have to identify themselves when they take people into custody.
Correct. Thank you for answering that. Good question, by the way. All right, let's take a few more quick phone calls here. Let's go to Frank. Hey, Frank, what's going on? Frank?
Hey, Brian, Leonard, how you doing?
Good.
Hi there.
You know, when you have your MAGA callers call you, you should tell them when they say, "Oh, Trump's making our country great again." Well, you know what? 249 years out of 250 is all right, and there's one half a year he's not doing nothing. So democracy was right for all those years up until now, until Donald Trump took over. So
yeah, I say that all the time. They say make America great again, but I ask MAGAs all the time, tell me when it wasn't great. Tell me when we weren't one of the best, most productive, strongest countries on the planet. And you know what? They can't answer that.
It's true. Thank you for the call, Frank. Appreciate you. Number to call 702-221-7283. We're running out of time here. Try to get to some more
rapid
callers.
fire.
Yeah, let's go to Brett. Brett is next up on PTL. Hey, Brett, what's going on?
Leonard, Brian, I'm the chef in this phone call, but you guys are cooking today, man. You guys are cooking that ass. Let me tell you. Listen, when it comes down to it, with Kamala Harris, I have a buddy whose father was a lifelong union member, and we're in the car and we're talking about who they're potentially going to vote for, and he said there's absolutely no way that I'm voting for that black bitch, and that sums it up. There's nothing more to it. There's no secret. There's no reasons. There's no policy. It's all about it. She was a woman and she's black.
They were never going to let a black woman be president.
It's never going to happen.
I agree. They were never going to let her be president. And even if they didn't say it out loud, do you think that's what they were saying in their minds?
Yeah, and Hillary, Fox News had all those years to demonize her on Fox, and it's just comical when they call and they talk about that there was no election for Harris, that they didn't have a primary. They don't give a shit about that. They care less. They don't care about that. If Trump didn't have a primary, you think they would care a little bit. They wouldn't care at all. But I don't have much. I just want to, you guys are kicking ass today, and I love it. I love it. These guys are such idiots. Thanks, guys.
I appreciate it.
We even got the caller saying it.
Well, I mean, some of the people that have called in today are, but I'm very fortunate and lucky that the overwhelming majority of PTL Nation are very informed, educated, and caring and good people that watch this show every day. And that's really cool. That's really cool to see. And I know that, the MAGA people who call into the show are always welcome to call in, but it'd be nice if they could bring some facts with them when they call in.
Well, look, here's the thing. You get upset with them, and they think you get upset with them because they're MAGAs and because they have a different point of view, but that's not accurate, because I've seen when someone's a gentleman or a lady and they call in and they have a valid point and it's objectively accurate, I've seen you listen and have a conversation with them. So it's really not the fact that they're a MAGA. That's why more should call in, but they got to have their ducks in the row.
If you're going to call into the show,
they got to have some facts.
What do you like about Trump? And they're all the same, these people. What do you like about what Trump has done in the first 5 or 6 months? And they always say, I like what he's doing with immigration. But if you like what he's doing with immigration, then you like it. And when I bring up what ICE agents are doing and not giving people due process and arresting people outside of courtrooms and nonviolent criminals going to El Salvador, that's part of his immigration policy. So when you admit that you don't like those things, then you really don't like his immigration. It's so ridiculous, and they can't name anything else. It's so ridiculous. Well, when I like a policy, I like a policy. I don't say, well, I like some of the things in that policy, but I don't like some of those other things. And no, Kamala Harris would not have ripped up parts of our Constitution, and she would have made sure that everybody got due process. So the idea that she would have done similar things is outrageously ridiculous.
What
and it's a
about
lie.
the guy that said that the people from South Africa, well, they were running away from a dangerous situation? Why do you think?
What do you think these other people are doing?
Right. And so now there's 0 people. There's no opportunity to become a citizen. And they are running here for the same reason.
Leonard, think about how racist that is. The guy is saying,
I didn't want to say that, but it's terribly racist.
The guy called in and he said, and you're right, the 10 people that happened to be 100% white from South Africa had no choice. And they had to come.
They're trying to come here for asylum, which is why everybody comes to the border.
What about all the brown people that are coming in here? You don't think they're seeking asylum too? You doofus.
And what they're doing right now is if you're seeking asylum and you have a court date, and this is true, you can look it up if they don't believe me, the judge is canceling your court date while you're in the front of the courtroom, and they're deporting you right from the courtroom because you can no longer seek asylum because that's the policy. Now you're saying you like the policy. That doesn't make any sense.
Doesn't make any sense. But you know what? The bottom line is when we talk to many of these MAGA callers, 9 out of 10 of them, maybe more, do not make any sense. Leonard, I do appreciate you being here as always. Some people have said Leonard's got to be a regular. He is. He joins
a regular.
He joins me every Wednesday.
We're going to call it whatever you want Wednesdays. How about that?
Yes, yes.
What do you want to talk about?
Leonard's going to host the show one of these days too. I don't know when my next vacation is, but Leonard's definitely going to come back.
That's a lot of pressure.
Paul Lance is going to come back too, but you guys did a good job when I was gone. Programming note for you. I just got confirmation on this. You guys are not going to believe this. That's right. The 47th president of the United States, Donald Trump, is going to be joining us on the show tomorrow.
No way.
We got him for 10 minutes. You're not going to want to miss it.
That's
folks.
a home run.
We got him for 10 minutes. You're not going to want to miss it. To start the show tomorrow, though, former presidential candidate, former Republican, now Democrat, Joe Walsh will be joining us on the show.
I might be calling in.
Donald J. Trump will be joining us on the show tomorrow.
That's incredible.
Yeah, so that's going to be a lot of fun. I can't wait to ask him. Well, I'm going to ask him about a lot of things, but I think we'll save it for tomorrow. Join me on the website, pushingthelimits.live, where you can make donations. We appreciate anything, and you can buy some PTL T-shirts and hats and all that stuff. Appreciate everybody in the YouTube Super Chat as well. Do you have something quick you want to add?
Just for Paul Lance. He interviewed Eric Swalwell this morning from California, and he's going to be posting it soon on his podcast.
Good. I look forward to hearing that
if
as
you
well.
want to go see it.
Good to hear everybody and see everybody in PTL Nation. We will be back at it tomorrow live, same time, same place. Thanks for joining us, everybody. Have a great day.
Hey, everybody. Are you struggling to find a pizza place that reminds you of Brooklyn? That true blue New York style pie? Well, worry no more. Stallone's Italian Eatery Pizza is a knockout. We're located at 467 East